Hello, this is Charles Perallo here with libertarian.com, and today I'm honored to have John Stossel on. Last time we had Jank Ugar, so this time for the libertarian audience, we're bringing someone a little bit more their style. John, how are you doing?
Good.
So last time I spoke to you, it was the right before you did the Libertarian Party debate with John McAfee, Austin Peterson, Gary Johnson. Now, I went to the Orlando convention. I voted for Gary Johnson for president, and I voted for Bill Weld for vice president. Wasn't really that fond of McAfee and wasn't really that confident in Peterson. Looking back, now we have our nominees. Do you think I made the right decision?
Yes.
Okay, so you kind of agree. You think that they might have had the ability to get the more media exposure, get their name out there, and grow the base. I kind of looked at it and said, Gary Johnson was the only libertarian candidate saying he doesn't think the blind should drive a car. I just didn't think the others would be willing to do it. How do you kind of focus in on that?
Well, which that? Blind people driving cars, or on whether you pick the right people?
Well, I think that looking at it, it's more of just that I think the other candidates were very, very hard for the regular people to swallow, and they weren't getting much media exposure. I don't think either of the two runners-up had the ability to raise over $100,000. And I look at Gary Johnson's campaign; it seems like they've raised over 10 million, and it seems like they're going for a message which regular people can get behind. So, I mean, comparing it to the other candidates and perhaps some other previous Libertarian Party candidates, where do you think they stack up?
Well, McAfee would scare a lot of people, and he is really well out of the mainstream with so many points, and he also sometimes says things just to be provocative that many Americans would freak out over. And Austin is young. He speaks better than Gary Johnson in many ways, and I wish Johnson has his crisp delivery sometimes, but you're absolutely right. If money matters, and that's too bad that it does. Clearly, these two guys will get more money, and also since they're two-term governors, they ought to be less threatening to the voters who don't bother to learn about liberty.
So going into this, you're doing the town hall meeting. This is the second time you've really, well, this is the first time I believe you're going to have Bill Weld on. So Bill Weld has been kind of someone some libertarians have had mixed reviews on. I was on his delegation in Orlando. I've really grown to like the guy. What do you think of Bill Weld? I mean, he was governor in the 90s for Massachusetts. I'm sure you kind of remembered him from that time. Do you think he was the smartest VP choice?
I don't really know who the smartest choice is, but I remembered him vaguely from being governor of Massachusetts, and I thought he was another boring, middle-of-the-road Republican. But I've interviewed him now a couple times with Gary Johnson, and I've come to like him too. He speaks more clearly than Gary does often, and he's not my perfect libertarian on some things, but he's pretty good.
Well, one thing a lot of people have said, I mean, Mitt Romney was probably the one to start the conversation on this. He said if Bill Weld was top of the ticket, he would be fundraising for him, endorsing for him. It looks like Jeb Bush is in the same boat. It looks like if Bill Weld was the Libertarian Party nominee, he could have probably bagged maybe 20 senators' endorsements and maybe raised $50 million right now. Do you agree, and would you make that trade-off? What are your views there on that?
You're asking me about politics, and I know so little I would presume to comment on what the best strategy is. I don't think it would be right for Weld to be the nominee. He hasn't been a libertarian. Gary Johnson hasn't been a libertarian in a long time.
Okay, I mean, I can definitely agree with what you're saying there. Now, you talked a lot about Gary Johnson's speaking style. Now, my background is I'm a little bit more the tech industry. I'm actually a pretty big bicyclist like Gary Johnson. For someone like me, I kind of see the relaxed attitude, the vibe he gives. And for me, it's perfect. But I've heard a lot of people on that. And you've mentioned that you think you thought Austin Peterson might have in some ways spoke a little bit better. If you can give Gary like a pointer right now on how he presents, what would you change?
Or you should stop saying "I think," because if he says it, I know. If he thinks it, he should speak in clear sentences that have a beginning, middle, and an end.
Now,
you should practice.
Now, no, I've also been kind of noted for saying the word "I think" a lot. The words "I think" a lot. So maybe I like Gary just because I kind of talk a little bit like him. But I could definitely see.
You both wouldn't be good as the ideal presidential candidate.
Wow, that I'm just looking at it right now. I can go to my girlfriend and say, John Stossel does not believe I should be a Libertarian Party presidential candidate. But I will take that as some pretty good advice there. I don't think I would be the best nominee. But I mean,
and don't misquote me. I didn't say that. I just said you don't speak in that clear way that is more likely to get somebody elected.
Well, for you, and I mean, I've read a lot of books by you. You actually, I believe, had some sort of speak-in issue as a child, and the way you've presented it over the years, I think it's made you quite a great speaker, quite a great communicator. How has that challenge that you faced impacted your career overall?
We'd say I used to be a stutterer, but I'm actually still a stutterer. I just taped a segment with Kennedy on her show, and I stuttered. I stutter less. I have it more under control.
Well,
I think see, I did what I said Johnson shouldn't do, but maybe in this case it's an opinion. I don't know. I think because I was unable to speak for so long, it made me value words, and that may have helped me in my career. I may choose my sentences more carefully.
Okay, now going into this town hall in more detail, because that's what we're supposed to be speaking on. What types of questions are you going to be asking Gary Johnson and Bill Weld? Are these questions kind of geared to make libertarians happier, which is kind of your core audience, or are you looking for more of a middle ground, like what is a 45-year-old who's politically non-active but probably going to vote going to do? Who are you trying to appeal for in this town hall?
I'm not doing it for libertarians. We're not trying to help it. We're not going to have questions about ending the Fed or monetary policy because I'm producing a television program, and the TV program needs to have topics that appeal to people and are non in the weeds, so they don't make people glaze over. And I'm not going to be asking most of the questions. They'll come from the town hall, so the studio audience will ask, and people who propose questions on my Facebook or Twitter pages. And thirdly, we send a camera out around New York and asking people, what would you like to ask the Libertarian presidential and vice presidential candidate? A dismayed number said, what? Who?
Oof. I was about to ask that. I was like,
a lot of people don't even know who they are, which is what I'm doing in the town hall, to let more people know.
Oh, I was about to ask that. I was like, please don't tell me that there were a lot of people saying, who's Gary Johnson? But I'm going to guess we got a lot of that.
Say that again?
I'm going to guess that we had a lot of people in the city not know who they were, sadly.
Yeah, well, you said 70% of the country doesn't know who Gary is, and that was consistent with what we found with the people we asked. We go around with a big picture of Will Johnson, asking if anybody knows who they are, and very few do.
Well, I remember about maybe 5 years ago, you actually did that when you first did the 1 hour segment on Gary's campaign when he ran as a Republican. And you did that, and there was almost no one who knew who he was. Would you say it's a bit better this time? I mean, would you say over the last 5 years, there's definitely been a progression where, hey, at least maybe 20, 30% of the people actually know who this guy is?
Your memory's better than mine. remember what the earlier test showed. I wouldn't want to make any pronouncements. I assume it's higher, but we asked 20 or 30 people. That doesn't prove anything. There are polls, though, that show 61% of the country does not know who he is.
And I mean, hopefully with some chances of them making it into the debates, which, they're at 11, 12%, that would definitely change. How do you think them going into the debates would affect things? If Bill Weld was up against Tim Kaine and Mike Pence, how would that work? If Gary Johnson was against like female Richard Nixon and Biff Tannen from the Back to the Future movies, how would that work?
I'm sorry, I just got interrupted by some rude person here in Central Park. So, what was the question again?
I apologize. The question is, how do you think that they would actually interact in the debates? How do you think Gary Johnson and Bill Weld would do?
I have no idea. Remember, they usually have, it's just Johnson, so he's not going to have Weld as his handy crutch. Weld makes Johnson better. So, we have a question from someone on social media who says, well, I think Gary's just not going to do well in the debates. He lacks command. We'll see what Gary says about that. I just think the public, they get Super Bowl-like numbers on the first debate, and this would introduce ideas about liberty and libertarianism to so many people who have no clue at the moment. If they could just get in, it would be great, even if Gary doesn't debate like a superstar.
I mean, looking at this, when I was at the Orlando convention and I was there trying to do some things to change the Libertarian Party, because the way I've always identified myself is that when the Republicans have someone good, I'll vote Republican. When the Republicans come up with a Donald Trump, I vote Libertarian. But the Libertarian Party, you mentioned a lot about message and how you're not going to talk about monetary policy and things people really don't care about. If you go on the Libertarian Party's website, it says things like individual liberty, non-aggression principle. There's no mention of lower gas prices, how to lower unemployment. And they kind of just talk about these fringe issues. Do you think that's what's been holding the party back for all these years?
No. And as you described them, I like those topics. They're so much better than, here's how we will create jobs. It just feels like a cliche. These are real principles, important principles. And if later on the website they would lay out a plan saying, many of the things Gary said, how will we create jobs? Politicians don't create jobs. Jobs are created by the private sector when there are simple rules that everyone understands, when the rules are reasonably consistent, predictable, so you can plan ahead. And if we do that, that will create jobs. Johnson did throw in when I was governor of New Mexico, I vetoed all the bills. The result, New Mexico created X many jobs.
Well, I think you seem to show a lot of care about Gary Johnson. I think you really do like this guy and think he would be your man for the presidency. And with me, I've always had the same feeling. I look at him and say, he's a businessman, he's a governor, he is right on the issues. Why do you think some libertarians don't really see it? Because I look on, with our page being libertarian, we have over 120,000 followers. We get so many messages and so many comments from our group with libertarians saying he's not good enough, I don't like him. Why is this? What do you think the problem is?
It's a problem with intellectuals always. People want perfect. And the perfect can be the enemy of the good. And everybody likes to snipe with other libertarians. Oh, you're not pure enough. Well, I mean, I post these quotes in my Twitter feed, and they're liberty-oriented quotes, but some come from people, libertarians besides, like Dick Cheney or even so. And I get these hostile complaints. How dare I run a quote? And it's true. Maybe I shouldn't run anything from Rousseau, but it's like it's the idea that matters. Let's get these ideas out. If Gary isn't perfect, and I'm going to fight with him about letting bakers not make a cake for a gay wedding if they don't want to. It's their private business, I think. Rand Paul, when he said it to Rachel Maddow and Barry Goldwater, that he kind of set his presidential chances by saying that 2 parts of the Civil Rights Act, 2 parts of the 9, were wrong. Those that ban private discrimination. Because you ought to have a private life. But, and I'll say Gary should have been a Muslim baker. He forced another Muslim baker to Muslim business before he self-support people. And they disagree. They said this is too threatening to the overall well-being of the country to allow religious discrimination. Well, I don't think it's about religion. It's just about discrimination. And we discriminate all the time when we pick our friends and our wife and our jobs. Discrimination is part of life. We should have a right to free association and for privacy. If I don't want to serve you because you smell bad, that should be my right. If I don't want to serve you because you're black, it should be my right. And I'm not the only store. And stores that would serve blacks would get business. And people would boycott my store, and they should. I would boycott my store. The market will take care of that. Government shouldn't reach into private life. In private life, you ought to have a right to be a bigot and a racist. If you're not allowed to, it drives it underground. It makes it worse.
I look at this and say that your show, that debate you did, kind of pointed out an initial bake the cake kind of thing of what went on. And going back at that, looking at it, I mean, I kind of just see it as it created a big conversation and a big divide. Now, with the Libertarian Party, at the final debate, they were asked, would you have signed the Civil Rights Act? Gary Johnson was the only one who said he would have voted for if a senator and signed the Civil Rights Act if president. I mean, do you think that, I mean, in reality, this is a law that has been in place for 50 years with the cakes and discrimination laws, and it seems like every mainstream candidate, even Donald Trump, is backing it. Do you think that, like, just trying to make an enemy out of this issue, which has no economic recourse and is really just a little a tick on overall liberties, do you think they've made too big of a deal out of this and prevented themselves from talking about the other things like Gary Johnson has said? He wants to cut spending about 30%. He wants to pardon 500,000 nonviolent drug offenders. He wants less regulation in the economy. Do you think that they've just got distracted with this very small issue?
Yeah, you make a good point. Now you're making me feel guilty about doing it. Because, like, I find it an interesting intellectual argument. Where is the line between public and private? And what does it mean if you're not free to do whatever the heck you want in your private life? Or if you're not forced to do business with somebody you don't want to. It ought to be part of privacy. But you're also right that this is toward the end run. Why am I bringing up this nitpicky, critical thing? And I should be the cheerleader trying to help the libertarian.
And now there will probably end up being a meme on the internet of your face on a cheerleader's costume, by the way, because whenever we post anything funny, there's always people producing.
You're really breaking up now. I can't understand you. Say again.
Oh, I was saying that now there's probably going to be some sort of meme of you on the internet with a cheerleading costume on, because whenever we post anything, any interview, there's always about 100 people who make these very annoying memes. So there might be a cheerleading costume of you circulating. I apologize.
I just, can you, when you're asking the question, take it off speaker or something like that?
Oh, sure. No, when they, sorry about that. When they, because of what you said about the cheerleader thing, I was making the joke that they would, some people on the internet might put you in a cheerleading costume in a meme of some kind. They always seem to do that whenever we do an interview. We did one with Jank Younger, and the internet had some interesting memes there. So John Stossel in a cheerleading costume might come up soon.
I see. I haven't seen that, but so if you see it, send them to me, please.
So going in, I think one final question really is what's needed here. What do you expect libertarians or the general audience to get out of this town hall? What would be your ultimate goal here besides exposure? What would you want really people to take away from it? And what pressures do you think Gary Johnson and Bill Weld have, really? What audiences do you think they should be targeting, they should be appealing to?
I don't presume to know which audiences they should talk to, but what I hope our audience gets is that there's a choice between a bully who is irrational often and a career politician who wants to stethoscope and micromanage every inch of life. And these are two-term governors who were reelected in Republican and Democratic states. They are competent professionals, and these ideas make sense. And give them a shot. Learn more about liberty.
John, I thank you again for speaking with me. This is the second interview I've had with you. Now, one thing I kind of wanted to touch on, and I didn't really want to ask this as a question because this is ours. Last time I spoke to you, about a couple days after, some rather unfortunate news regarding your health came out. And,
Man.
Oh, so you are fine.
I am.
Oh, that's great to hear. And I just want to say, I mean, you've been a fan of mine. I've been a fan of yours for many, many years now. And I think our audience has. When I posted that we're going to be doing a Stossel interview, I mean, people were crazy saying how much they were a fan of yours. So I think everybody in the Liberty community wishes you well on that front. And we're glad to hear you're back. And hopefully you'll be doing this for many, many years to come.
Thanks very much. All right. Well, next time on a better phone connection. Bye-bye.
Thank you, John. Have a nice time.